All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sunera Vikramarachi. This is the public forum of Control Union Philippines Academy. Today's forum is on an interesting subject, nevertheless a valuable opportunity for a lot of industries which are into plastic and recycling. So it's about ocean-bound plastic certification. We are doing this today in collaboration with Zero Plastic Ocean, which is the owner of this unique global standard. And here we have two key resource persons who are Vincent and Gabriella. Let me first introduce our resource persons. Vincent Dica, who's an engineer and Master of Business Administration and joining from Panama. He is the co-founder of the NGO Zero Plastic Oceans, which is dedicated to ocean-bound plastic elimination, collaborating with a Race for Water Foundation. And also, he's the commercial director of Suez America Latina, which is involved in water and solid waste management. And also here with us, Gabriela Santos, who's an agriculture engineer joining from United States, who's also the program coordinator of Control Union in USA. And she's the global assistant and North American coordinator of Ocean-Bound Plastic Certification Program. And also global scheme coordinator of Plant-Based Certification Program. And here with me in Philippines, we have Wouter van Revenhorst, who's a Master of Business Strategic Management and Business Administrator, and is the Managing Director and the Country Manager of Control Union Philippines. Also, previously the Business Development Manager in CU Vietnam and Operations Manager in Nico2. It's the sister company of Control Union Vietnam. And myself, as I said, I'm Sunera Vikramarachi. I'm the Operations Manager for Certifications, Control Union Philippines. And I will be your host today, and also I'll be moderating this forum. So first, let me invite Wouter to welcome this gathering and also to introduce our Control Union activities.
Thank you so much, Sunera, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good evening for some, especially for our presenters from Panama and the US. We are very honored to have you here to speak about the OBP program. And we're also very honored to have everyone here joining this session this morning in the Philippines, or maybe in Asia or other locations. So today we'll be discussing the ocean-bound plastic program, of course. I won't be telling much about that because we have some guest speakers who have a lot more knowledge about that. But for those who don't know our company yet, so our company is Control Union, and we are a global inspection and certification body. Since last year, existing 100 years already globally. Unfortunately, no big party, of course, due to the current circumstances, but still a very big achievement for our group. We have been in the Philippines already since 2009, and we hope to stay here also another, let's make the full 100 years as well in the Philippines. Globally, we're around 70 plus countries, and we have around 5,000 people. Now, what do we mainly do? We offer services throughout the entire supply chain, related to agriculture and fisheries, forestry, from inspecting those products to offering sustainable certification programs, of which one of them is the ocean-bound plastic program. But we offer many more. This is our second session of this webinar series. The first one was on organic certification, and the current one is on ocean-bound plastic. On the next slide, I would like to say, okay, so this is offered through Control Union Academy, which is basically our arm that we use for public trainings and other trainings related to certification programs. We have more of these sessions coming. Here you see a small overview of a couple of sessions that we have globally. As you can see, there's a session on the textile standard. There's a session on some other standards. And the current slide you see actually is the ones we are organizing from our academy in the Philippines. So this is basically a rough schedule of some of the programs we're going to talk about in this year. Global Gap, social certification, food safety, forestry, and textile. I don't want to keep it too long. It's morning, and I'm looking forward to the presentations by the other speakers. So without further ado, let's continue to the other speakers, and thank you everyone for being here today.
Thank you, Wouter. So this will be our agenda for today's program. And as you can see, we have different segments introducing the program and also talking about the certification. And first half of the program will be conducted by Vincent, and later about the certification and the other programs, it will be by Gabriela. And towards the end, we will have a Q&A session. So you can put all your concerns, the questions, or the comments in this live chat box as a live comment. And we will try our best to answer all of your concerns and questions towards the end. So let me first invite Vincent for our first segment. Vincent.
Yes, thank you, Sunera. Good morning, everyone in the Philippines. Good afternoon. Somebody has an afternoon right now, and good evening for our geographies. We'll have a short presentation about the ocean-bound plastic certification program, explain you some key elements of the program, which is, of course, what is ocean-bound plastic, and then a bit more technical aspect of the program, but not too technical. First of all, the reason for making that program. So as you can see on these images, Sunera, if you can put up the next slide, you see that the visible side, the visible face of plastic pollution, is definitely plastic pollution in the ocean. So although it's not the only thing that's happening, we see that 90% of the media is talking about we have plastic in the ocean. And that is because it's a great environmental concern, but it's creating a great environment image concern for the industry. At the same time, as you can see on the next slide as well, the global production of plastic is about 400 billion tons per year. And we estimate, we have to be honest, that we don't know for sure how much plastic is exactly going into the ocean. We will know when we collect everything. But so far, we don't know. But we estimate it's around 12 million tons. That means only 3% of the plastic produced every year is ending up in the ocean. That's, of course, too much. But when you look at an industry that has a huge image and environmental problem caused by its product, and it's only 3% of its production, we think it should be easy to solve. And it would be easy to solve if the industry was able to focus properly on the problem. So what do we want to focus on? Next slide, please. We want to focus on ocean-bound plastic. Why ocean-bound plastic? Simply because before plastic it was in the ocean, it's in the definition, in the name, it was previously ocean-bound plastic, which means plastic going to the ocean or plastic at risk of going into the ocean. So that is the reason why, with Control Union help, We Zero Plastic Ocean started to develop this program, next slide, as a tool for the industry to focus on ocean-bound plastic. So by using this certification, you are making sure that when you invest in purchasing ocean-bound plastic, when you invest in recycling ocean-bound plastic, you are actually really doing so with real ocean-bound plastic. So that's why it's a tool for the industry to focus on it and to resolve this environmental problem that we have and resolve this image problem that the industry has. Next slide, we will start with defining ocean-bound plastic. So first of all, there is a lot of confusion between what is ocean-bound plastic and what is ocean plastic. Well, now you started to understand, we explained that earlier. Ocean-bound plastic is before, so ocean-bound plastic is to be on the land, it's on the earth, it's not plastic that's already in the ocean. So it's really the plastic that happens before it's ocean plastic, and that's why we say removing ocean-bound plastic prevents ocean-bound plastic. Now, if we dig deeper on the next slide in the definition, we will look at the geography where ocean-bound plastic can be found. So you will see the definition is really two main components. The first one is then the geographies. There is a category that the industry is using and everybody recognizes as being the ocean-bound plastic definition, which is mismanaged plastic in the 50 kilometer from the coast. So why 50 kilometer? Actually, it comes from the same study that was done by Jenna Jembeck in 2015, where this number of 4.7 to 12.4 million tons of plastic enter the ocean from land, and these famous numbers often use that, for example, 8 million tons. That comes from that same study. And to determine that number, Jenna Jembeck and her team looked at plastic mismanaged within a 50 kilometer bandwidth from the shore. And that's why it came by de facto definition of ocean-bound plastic. So we have this first definition in the standard. But as we explained, it's really a tool to focus. So we created two other categories for the companies who wish to have a deeper focus, more precise focus. And the first one is shoreline ocean-bound plastic. And that's only 200 meters from the shore and only 100 meters into the sea. So it's really the plastic that you will find on the beach, around the beach, very next to the beach. And a lot of plastic also comes from rivers, and that has been proven that a lot of quantity really, we don't know exactly the percentage, but some people would say 20% of all plastic, some people would say 80%. So the numbers is somewhere in between, but it's high. Comes from rivers as well. So if we are working alongside rivers, 200 meters on each bank, we will be preventing that this plastic gets inside the stream of the river and it's carried away to the ocean. That's why we have this waterways ocean-bound plastic category that looks at the banks on each side of the river, and that also looks at plastic inside the waterways, which can be captured by nets or boats, for example. So you have these three categories. That's the first part of the definition, is where is the plastic. The second definition is mismanagement. We can see on next slide fairly obvious example of mismanaged plastic waste on the left side, where we have overflowing collection, no collection system, plastic abandoned in the environment, and on the right, correctly managed plastic. And everything which is correctly managed, even though it is in the 50 kilometer, that will not apply for ocean-bound plastic. And this is a very important, otherwise we will have about half of the plastic of the world potentially applying for ocean-bound plastic, and that's not the case. On the next slide, we can see some cases which are a little bit more difficult to determine, and that's where really the auditors have to pay a lot of attention. For example, you can see on the right side of the slide on the top, we exclude from OBP managed dump sites. So you're going to tell me that a dump site is not a good management, is mismanaged. Yes, that's correct. We totally agree with that. But when we look at it from the point of view of ocean-bound plastic, if the plastic was taken from the city, from the street, taken to a dump site, it's fairly unlikely that this plastic is going back to the sea. So it's mismanaged plastic, yes, but it's not ocean-bound plastic. So we exclude everything collected in what we call managed dump site. Unless that dump site is, of course, next to a river or next to the shore, like you can see on the left part of the slide. Or if that dump site is what we call an informal dump site, where there is no management at all. It's an illegal dump site, usually smaller, usually in the environment. Finally, continuing on the left side of the slide, we also include prevention mechanism. So we don't have to wait for you to throw the bottle in the street, abandon to collect it. If you are doing home collection, if you're doing segregation at source, in a district, in an area where we have a waste management problem, then we're also going to accept this as ocean-bound plastic because you're preventing it from happening. And the same applies with the fishing industry. If there is no incentive for fishermen to bring their waste back to the port, it's very likely that this waste is going to be lost at sea. So there is a lot of prevention of plastic discharge into the ocean voluntarily or involuntarily if there is a mechanism that incentivizes, motivates the fishermen to bring it back to the shore. That's why we include also this material into ocean-bound plastic. So that's it for the definition of ocean-bound plastic. Now let's look at what is the program covering. So first of all, you can see a picture of a beach. And the first thing I can do is go to that beach and remove what I can sell in the recycling market. In that case, and in many cases, it's going to be a little portion of the material that can be sold. That material is sold to the recycling value chain. So we have a certification that covers the collection and covers the recycling for users to be able to make recycled, certified ocean-bound plastic claim. For example, this bottle is made of 50% recycled ocean-bound plastic. That's the first part. Of course, we could not be satisfied with a result that is like the slide in the middle, like this picture in the middle of the slide. So we also developed a complementary program. You can be certified for one program or for the other one. They don't have to go together, of course. To create a model where you can be paid for actually removing what you could not sell into the recycling market. And that's the Obp Neutrality Model, so that somebody can make a claim that this product is Obp neutral, which means we have compensated the weight of this product by removing non-recyclable ocean-bound plastic from the environment and treating it. Next slide, we will have a little bit of detail of the two programs. So first of all, the recycling sub-program. As you can see, it is divided in two standards. Why two standards? Because simply the collection activity and the initial preparation of the material for its further recycling is fairly different from the downstream activity of transformation. That's why we have two different standards. So we have one that covers the collection and one that covers recycling operations, making new products, trading these products after. So it's a chain of custody certification. The same applies for the other sub-program, where we also have two programs. You can put the next slide, Sunera, please. And we have a program for the people collecting this non-commercially recyclable ocean-bound plastic, treating it to an acceptable environmental standard, and then emit what we call a naturalization certificate, or which is an ocean-bound plastic credit, if you take the parallel with the carbon market. So we have a plastic credit that is emitted by this company, who is first certified to the Obp Neutralization Service Provider. That credit is sold to a company that is producing or using plastic and wants to make a neutrality claim, so offset a plastic footprint. The final slide of my part of the presentation is about the key requirements of the standard. So we've talked a lot about where is the OBP, is it mismanaged or not, the chain of custody requirement. So that's all a part of the standard that you will find. But additional to that, we also have social and ethical requirements. The classical no child labor involved at any step of the supply chain, that you have fair employment conditions for the people working in every step of the supply chain as well, fair payment to the waste pickers. So making sure that the environment benefits, but also people who are working in this supply chain benefit. And we have an environmental requirement that prevents companies working in that supply chain to actually put back some ocean-bound plastic in the environment. So you need to have a sufficiently good waste management that, for example, the plastic that you cannot sell for recycling, it is correctly treated in a disposal site so that it doesn't return as ocean-bound plastic. And that's it for my part, and I will pass on to Gabriela to continue and give you more detail about how to certify.
Hello, thank you, Vincent, thank you, Suneras, thank you, Walter. Good morning for everyone, or good evening. My name is Gabriela, and I'll be presenting the certification process as well as some customer point of view, about what is the difference between OBP and GRS, the OBP app that can be used for collection organizations, the certification process itself, and different plastic certifications that we offer, that it's offered around the world. So on the next slide, basically Vincent really explained the whole OBP program. So there is 2 different sub-programs with 2 different standards, and it can be very confusing at first, which certification is the one for you. My company does that and that, but where does we fall? What do we fall? So for the recycling sub-program on the next slide, basically, if your company collects recyclable OBP to sell it, if your company has their own team and does cleanups operation, if you buy OBP to independent collectors that can be understood as street pickers or small enterprises doing this collection, or if the organization buys and prepares as sort, clean, and pack or bale and transport it, but does not transform the material, then you can apply for the collection organization standard. If your company trades certified OBP, if transforms somehow the prepared or raw certified OBP into intermediate products, if produce new products or packaging from OBP or intermediate products, or if uses packaging made of recyclable OBP and does its own labeling, then you can apply for a recycling organization standard. Oh, my company does both, the collection side and the recycling side. Can I apply for both standards? Yes, you can. For the neutrality sub-program, on the next slide, again, there is 2 different standards. The neutralization service provider standards, it is very similar to the collection organization standard, but it's focused on non-commercially recyclable OBP. So if your company collects non-commercial recyclable OBP, of course, if it has its own teams and does cleanup operations, if it buys OBP to independent collectors, always small enterprises doing this collection, if organization treats or contracts the treatment of this non-recyclable OBP into an environmentally accepted way, then you can apply for neutralization service provider. If your company is a collection organization and you collect both recyclable and non-recyclable OBP, can you apply for both collection and neutralization service provider? Yes, you can. If you are part of a large organization and you collect both types of OBP as well as recycle those that are recyclable materials, can you apply for the 3 standards, collection, recycling, and neutralization service provider? Yes, you can. And for plastic producers and user standards, is basically can be understood, roughly understood as a financing standard. So if your organization produces products made of plastic, conventional plastics, or even recyclable plastics, if your organization uses plastic packaging to sell its products, if your organization wants to offset its plastic consumption by having no recyclable OBP removed from the environment, And if organization wants to declare some of its products as OBP neutral, then you can apply for plastic producers and users. So for instance, I work for a textile company, and I want to offset, all the conventional type of plastics that I use in my products. Can I apply for plastic producers and users? Yes, you can. I work for a bank, and we use a lot of plastic because it's more hygienic to use a cup of plastics to drink water. We have a lot of people coming in, so we just use, a lot of plastic. Can we apply for plastic producers and users to say we are plastic neutral? Yes, you can. On the next slide, please. A lot of textile clients and prospects, they do have the question, what is the main difference between OBP and GRS? So basically, the question goes back to you. So what do you want to communicate? What do you want to communicate for your buyers, to your suppliers, to your consumers? So the GRS, which is the Global Recycled Standard, is a full product standard that sets requirements for third-party certification of recycled content, chain of custody, social and environmental practices, and chemical restrictions. And the OBP was designed to encourage the removal of OBP from the environment by adding value in effectively collecting and treating it before it reaches the oceans. So if we focus on these tables, basically the products, what is the difference between these both standards? So GRS is applicable for all types of recyclable materials. Can be plastic, can be another type of material, can be ocean-bound plastic or any other type of plastic. It's not focused on ocean-bound areas, let's say. And meanwhile, OBP, it's really focused on plastics coming from ocean-bound areas. And this plastic can be, recyclable or non-recyclable. It does not include any other type of material. Regarding supply chain, GRS, it's downstream. So from, if I'm not mistaken, from pellets on, it can all be certified as GRS. Meanwhile, OBP also focus on the collection side of it, so the upstream, where this plastic is coming from. Also, there is a standard or section for the downstream as well, the recycling side of it, and as well as neutralization. So there is an option to collect, non-recyclable, non-commercially recyclable plastics, as well as offsetting your plastic footprint. And the focus of these both standards, they are very similar. The main difference is that GRS does have requirements for chemical restrictions, and OBP does not. That is the main difference between them regarding the focus of these standards. Next slide, please. And what is the OBP app? So OBP app was developed by Orca Geoservices. Orca Geoservices is a member of the Global Control Unit Network, and they provide technology solutions. And they came up with this OBP app mainly for collection organizations, so you can have a better control of your collection activities. So you can monitor and document collection activities, so quantities, pictures, specific locations with GPS. You can improve compliance to OBP requirements, so the locations because of the GPS, the quantities again, the storage where they are being stored. You can plan new operations, so you can do cleanup teams, notifications for these teams, OBP waste, what type of or where the team have to go. It's really like a cloud, so all the information goes to this cloud, and the project managers will have easy access to this information, because usually what we have seen so far is that collection organizations using, for instance, paper or very manual procedures, and with the OBP app, everything would be more connected, integrated in a cloud. and the access would be very easy. So for this app, we know that each organization has its own scope. So it is kind of customized to your organization. So we kindly ask to contact Orca by this email, orca@controlunion.com. And they can provide a little bit more information, even a free trial for a period. So you can try it. And basically the OBP app is a project setup that included daily collection and recording module. It is available for Androids. There is a web administration, and you can, all the project managers can have access to this data. And again, as it is customized, you together with Orca will prepare your OBP zones. So where do you collect, your region, your country, your city, if it's shoreline, if it's waterways, or even potential, and any other information that it is needed to be customized. Next slide, please. And for the certification process, it follows the same as any other standard, I would say. So first of all, there is the application submission. You can send an email to oceanbp@controlunion.com or your local contact at Control Union. Then after the application submission and review, if your scope it is indeed applicable for OBP, Control Union will build an offer, a non-obligatory offer for you together with the contract. So you have time to review and approve. If all the fees are approved and agreed, then we will schedule an audit. And there is the document preparation. So the auditor will send to you all the documents needed for the audit, at least 2 weeks prior the audit date. Then on the audit date, there is the execution of the audit. After the audit, the auditor has some time to write the report, send to the certifier, and all the reviews needed are executed during this report time. If the client has any NC, if any NC is raised during the audit, the client will have time to close these NCs to provide evidences. After these NCs are closed, we can issue the certificate. It's very important that all NCs are closed prior, in order to issue the certificate. And then the scope certificate. We say that this whole process can take 6 up to 8 weeks. Of course, it is a roughly estimation. This number can vary according to the auditor's schedule. If there is any C raised during the audit, how long the company takes to comply with the payment conditions. If there is any, how long the application review takes. The application should be ready to be submitted. So it's a roughly estimation. But if everything works accordingly, the correct way at first, we say up to 8 weeks you will have your certificate in hand. Next slide, please. And I would like to invite you all for a next webinar regarding plastic. There is a lot of plastic certifications programs over there. There is RCS that is related with textiles, GRS related with textiles, OBP that we are talking right now, plastic-free, ICC, and responsible plastic management. So this webinar will take place on May 19th at 4 p.m. your local time, if I'm not mistaken, but it's 9 a.m. UK time. Right now, we don't have a link to register. So if you have interest in participating, please send an email to Rose. And on this webinar, we'll basically cover the main differences between all these standards related with plastic, their plastic differences, where they're applicable, and their main scope. Next slide. I believe I went a little bit too fast.
Okay, thanks, Gabriela. Now we have a lot of people joining us for the live session from almost all over the country in Philippines. But we are waiting for, if you have any concerns or any questions, you can raise those questions in the comments section, so we can take them here and answer right now.
If I may add, of course, I understand this might be quite a new topic for people, or at least new. These standards have been released quite recently and everything. So questions at this point might be hard. Maybe a question from me towards Vincent. So you have been working already with some companies who are getting ready for OBP or that are already certified. Do you maybe have a small overview of the main challenges they have and how they overcome those?
Usually the challenges are regarding the collection part. So whether applying for recycling the plastic or for emitting ocean-bound plastic credits. It's really the most difficult part of the work, because usually the collection is relatively informal in a lot of countries where we find ocean-bound plastic. So you're working with populations which are marginalized, don't really understand or are not used to the rigors of a certification and the complying with a lot of rules. So there's a lot of education to be done to educate your speakers to make sure that they understand what is ocean-bound plastic and what kind of plastic we are targeting and that they can collect. And also, often we find supply chain for this plastic where there is 2 or 3 steps of aggregation. So one waste picker is selling to a little waste shop, the little waste shop is selling to a bigger waste shop, and then they are selling to a big aggregator, and that aggregator is selling to a recycling organization. That is quite often the case. For the ocean-bound plastic program, it is very important for us to be close to the person that is actually collecting, and we are only allowing 1 step of aggregation. So a waste picker can sell to a waste shop, and the waste shop has to sell to the certified organization with a modality that we created that is a supplier group where they can be included. The big organization will include smaller organizations, the small waste shop, under the certification. But we don't allow more aggregation steps, so often companies have to reorganize a little bit the way they are currently working to be able to comply with ocean-bound plastic and to make sure that what they're actually collecting really is ocean-bound plastic.
Okay, thank you.
And this one question from Huang Dong. The buyer just and other didn't carry, so the collector just focused only one kind of plastic. So OBP has any solution on it?
Sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah. The buyer just focused on PPE and other didn't carry it. So the collector just focus only one kind of plastic.
I think the question means that usually we don't find interest in a lot of plastic for the recycling market. So the buyers only want PET in particular. This is plastic bottles. That's the most common products. So the collectors can only collect PET. And that is exactly the reason why we incorporated this neutrality standard, where the collector can collect the rest, can also collect what they cannot sell, and they can get paid for that through the credit mechanism. Of course, you need somebody to pay for that credit, but that's a possibility through the credit and the neutrality mechanism to pay people to actually collect plastic that normally nobody wants.
And
if may follow up on that, Vincent. So let's assume one of the companies here in the Philippines is interested in doing this, and maybe they already have an infrastructure. How would you recommend them to find actually buyers, or how to access the market? Does OBP play a role there, or how do normally suppliers find the buyers for this?
So currently, we have a lot of demand for certified ocean-bound plastic. So there are a lot of buyers who contact us because they look on the internet, they find our website, they see that we certify ocean-bound plastic, and they ask us, I need to buy this material, I want this, do you have a supplier for that? Do you know somebody who can provide? So of course, we give the information of our certified companies. Our certified companies are also publicly listed on our website. So if you go to obpcert.org, which is the website that you will find if you look for certified ocean-bound plastic, you will find us there. And there is the list of certified organizations. So as soon as you become certified, you will appear there, and then some buyers can look for you. And we're also developing partnership with platforms who are selling specifically OBP. So when you are certified, we also put you in relationship with this platform so that you can become one of their suppliers. So currently is a good time to jump in because we have a lack of supplier and a lot of demand.
All right.
Yeah. There's one question from Jed Apista. Is your certification free? Of course, it will involve some cost, but it depends on your operation, the size of the operation, where it is, and of course the total scope, which we have to first base on the application. So
but it's comparable to other certification that OBP is not more costly than a GRS certification or something similar. I understand that it is more or less the same range of price that companies are used to when you have a third-party auditor auditing an independent program. This is more or less the fees that you will see. So it's relatively, I would say, affordable for a medium-sized company, especially considering that certified ocean-bound plastic or certified ocean-bound plastic credits can be sold to a premium compared to non-certified OBP, just compared to recycled plastic, for example.
Okay, we have one more question from RAP. He's asking, considering the involvement of both the organization and the communities, how long does the certification process typically take place? Are there any post-certification activities to be conducted? How many years are the certification valid?
So the certificate is valid for 1 year. It's 1 year cycle. So every year the company needs to be recertified. There is no post-certificate activities per se. It's a very straightforward standard. And how long does it take, the certification process? As I mentioned previously, if everything goes smoothly and it can take like up to 8 weeks. It's just an estimation, depends on the auditor's schedule, if there is any available date, if there is any C raised during the audit, then you have time to correct these issues. And of course, how long does it take for your company also to, accept our offer? So all these little things can increase a little bit the certification process. But if everything happens smoothly, then I would say 8 weeks, up to 8 weeks.
I think we can share our experience as well, Gabriela, now that we have about 12 certification issued for the beginning of the program and quite a lot in the pipeline. And in general, because it is new and because companies have to adapt, we are more looking at a 3 months to 4 month cycle, which is going to be optimized. But it's still a reasonable amount of time, considering that you have to prepare your supply chain. You also have to explain to people. You have to prepare some documentation. But globally, most companies, and I would say more or less 3 months, they have been able to get their certification so far.
I think, if I may add to that as well, Gabriela and Vincent, there are of course 2 parts of certification process. One part is the supplier or the applicant preparing for the audit and making sure that the company can comply with the criteria. That's the first point, is to read the standard, right, and to figure out whether your supply chain is compliant with that or you have to make some changes. I think that's the most time-consuming part. And once you have decided, okay, I think I can comply, I'm ready for an audit, I mean, then it will not take so much time anymore. And then the audit is planned, the certification is done. The only thing that can then increase the time is if you have any non-conformities, NCs, so any point that don't comply with the standard. So I think the biggest time is on the side of yourself, going through the standard, figuring out how to make sure that you comply with that. And then the certification process doesn't have to take very long. If you agree with that, Gabriela and Vincent.
Yes, totally.
Okay, there's one more question from Borj. What type of OBP products are currently in high demand from buyers?
So, like we said, the standard is relatively new. So now we are at the beginning of supply chains. So what is most in demand is processed products from recycling companies. So in particular, PET flakes, hot wash PET flakes for making bottles, for example. We have a lot of demand and difficulties to supply that. We have quite a few people asking for polypropylene granulates as well. That's the most common things that we see. So granulates and flakes. We are starting to see demands, especially in India, where the standard is well advanced for material already processed. So the flakes already transformed in thread and material, and people wanting to make final products with it. So this is slowly we can see that the demand is going up in the supply chain towards nearly finished product for people to make their own products. But really, especially PET in the flakes, that's really something that we miss a lot and a lot of people are asking and searching for.
Okay, it seems we don't have any more questions right now immediately. But as I also said, like since this is a new standard, so you can again go through the content and you can follow more details about the program as well as the certification process. You can follow the links below in the screen. So since there are no more questions immediately, we are going to conclude our session. So we highly appreciate the contribution of Vincent and Gabriela today, and Contributing Philippines Academy believes it has been a very fruitful session and a forum. So as I said, you can always follow the more details with the links below, and as well you can reach us as well with the email addresses below in the screen. So please like and follow our Facebook page, and looking forward to meet you again with another episode of the public forum by Contributor Philippines Academy. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Good night, Vincent and Gabriela.
Thank you very much
Have
for
a
the
good day.
invitation and for the webinar. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.